I'm Eric with Nelson Brothers Agency. We're a full-service agency with offices in Bettendorf, Moline, and Muscatine, and then a one-woman shop in Bluegrass. I work out of the Moline office. I'm licensed for property and casualty insurance, which means that I work with protecting people's actual assets, the liability that goes to us with living day to day, running a business, and then also people when it comes to workers' compensation. What I want to focus on today is some personal insurance, and in particular the homeowner's policy and one special section of that. But we'll talk just quickly here about the coverages within the homeowner's policy. We've got coverage A, which is your dwelling or your home, and that's what most people think about. That's why we buy insurance. That's why the bank tells us we have to buy insurance when we have a mortgage. And that covers your house to rebuild it or replace it, repair it if there is a loss. And we've got coverage B, which is your personal property. This is everything that you have in your house and your garage, from a pair of socks all the way up to a plasma TV. And again, people are pretty focused on that line of coverage. Actually, I messed that up. That's C. So back to B. B is the items outside of your home that are a physical structure, such as a fence, a gazebo, a swimming pool, a shed, those types of things. We provide coverage for those in the homeowners. Then C, which we just covered. D is loss of use. This is if there's a kitchen fire and it's going to take 2 months for the contractor to put it back. The insurance company is going to step up and they're going to pay for you to have some money to come to the Belgrade and get burgers, or whatever it might be. If you can't live in your whole house, they'll get you an apartment or whatever, so that you're still living to your normal standards. And what I want to focus on here, which is way down the list, but it's a really important part of the coverage, and it's called coverage E. And this is personal liability insurance. This is the coverage that allows us to go out and live just day to day without constantly worrying, what if? What if I screw up? What if this happens? How am I going to be protected? This coverage can come into play anytime somebody claims that you caused them bodily injury or property damage. Those are the two key things.
Even if it's not on your private property? Even
if it's not on your property. And that's a big thing. People think of personal liability, the claim that, always gets used. You don't shovel your sidewalks, somebody slips and falls, they blame it on you and sue you. That personal liability would definitely cover for that, but it follows you and your family members anywhere you go in the United States. So that when we're doing those daily activities, there is coverage for that. As you guys all know, I like to snowboard and ride my bike. If I'm out doing those things and I hurt somebody or I damage property in those activities, my renter's policy is going to protect me in that coverage E. So it's a really, really good deal. Kids, your kids are out running around. 13-year-olds find some firecrackers, start blowing stuff up. That's a vicarious liability that's going to come back and protect you as the parent, so that's really important. The other parts that it covers is personal injury, which is a lot of times tough for me to explain. Erie can probably explain some of these things better than I can. False arrest. We're not going to arrest anybody, but we can detain somebody. We think somebody, caused some damage. Those 14-year-old kids blew up our mailbox. We hold them there until the cops come. It wasn't those kids. This is the type of stuff that's going to cover. Another couple big ones are libel and slander. We were just talking about Facebook earlier. We get mad at one of our kids' teachers, principal or something, posts something on Facebook about what an idiot this guy is, and you saw him out drunk at the bar doing this or that, and he wasn't doing this or that, and he sues you for libel or slander. Your policy is going to protect you. So just all sorts of different things are available to be covered. As far as a limit goes, we can write a limit as low as $100,000 and all the way up to $1 million. And how much you have really depends on how much you're willing to spend on the insurance and what you see your risks as being. Most of the time we sell $300,000 to $500,000 worth of coverage, and it's really reasonably priced. On your homeowner's policy, say you've got one and you're spending $600 a year on it, and you look at that policy tonight and you've only got $100,000 worth of coverage, you could probably go to $500,000 for about $2 a month. I mean, just really, really small amounts to have more coverage. Of course, there's some things that are not covered. We talked about some things that are autos, aircraft, hovercraft. There must have been some weird claim involving a hovercraft at some point. Business pursuits. So for instance, you know, Misty, when she's out there working for Sensi, they're not going to cover her because that's a business item. Although there are so many home-based businesses now, we can usually put an endorsement on policy to pick up that risk. Professional services. Erie giving out advice, that's not going to be covered. Not going to cover damage to our own property, war, communicable diseases. Not going to cover, you know, if you're selling drugs to somebody and they decide to sue you. Well, that one's out. And then, of course, expected or intended acts. You know, if I'm mad and I walk up and I know that, you know, punching Erie in the face is going to cause him to have a broken nose, they're not going to cover that. There's some weird exceptions to that. If I punched Erie in the face at the top of the stairs and he fell down the stairs and was hurt, they might cover him falling down the stairs, because I really didn't expect that or intend that. I just wanted to punch him in the face. I didn't mean to break his neck. So, like anything, you know, now we're getting into some unique situations. But I think this is an extremely important part of the policy. It's looked over because the banks aren't asking for it. Lots of times people think it's really just covering you at your home when it just covers so much more than that. So I don't know if there's any questions, but that's basically kind of the spiel that I wanted to go through.
I don't think if you wanted to punch somebody with a lawyer would be ideal.
Right.
Sean, on the other hand.
All right.
No, I understand too that you'll actually do free quotes for people. So that's in fact, that's a good way to keep your insurance that you do have, if you don't have it with Eric yet, is to keep them honest by having them do a quote to make sure that your insurance agency isn't grant, you know, only little coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I gave you guys a little information, maybe look at your policies and raise some questions. I sat down with Pam and her husband a few months ago. I put together quotes, spent a couple hours working on it, but when it came down to it, I could not say that we had a better product or a better price than what they had, so they stayed where they're at. And that's understandable. I've got to, you know, provide the right product, the right price, and service. All those have to come together, and they don't always, but I'm always happy to put together a quote for somebody.
I know I thought I used to have really good price with Progressive, and turn on and have your office quote on it, and it would save me a lot of money.
Yeah, and I'm with Progressive Insurance, so every situation is different. People sometimes ask, when should I shop for insurance? Of course, when you're buying a new house is a big thing. You've got kids, you know, that are coming on, and now you're traveling more, doing sport activities with young kids. Maybe you've got kids that are turning 14, 15, 16. They're starting to drive. Kids going off to college, as you retire. All these things vary as to how much insurance and what type of insurance you might want and how much risk you're taking on. I'm going to give some referral ideas, especially when it comes to this coverage E, the personal liability. I work with a lot of young people, call me for auto insurance, and don't even want to talk about renters. I don't have that much stuff. Well, they do have that much stuff. I mean, any of us to start over, I mean, even $20,000 wouldn't buy us, you know, a new wardrobe and sets of dishes and coffee makers. The money goes so fast. But the thing they don't realize is that personal liability coverage that they don't have when they don't have that policy. So if you have adult children, adult cousins, nieces, nephews, you know, these people that you see out there living their life every day that you probably haven't thought about spending $15 a month on insurance. Individuals that are getting divorced, that's a really tough situation because when you're married, if there's one name on that policy, the coverage automatically goes to the spouse. But there's a lot of weird situations that can happen. So when somebody's divorcing and separated, I definitely suggest they have their own policy as well. Unmarried persons living together, and there's a lot of people out there that cohabitate. Those individuals need to have policies. And then roommates, you know, if you got kids away at school or renting a house and sharing it with 2 or 3 other people, it's really important that they talk about personal liability insurance. Go ahead.
Do you just do renters insurance locally, or can you cover other states?
I'm licensed in Iowa, Illinois, and then I also can write coverage in Wisconsin and Michigan. So, thank you.
I guess in Michigan it's a little hard to get renters insurance.
Really? one or two companies that we work with that write from Michigan, so
Okay.
could be a possibility. Anything else? All right, well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much, Eric.